This is stuff that falls. Nobody knows why or where it falls from. But it falls, and if you touch it, it can change you. It has great powers, and people can use it for good things or bad things. The group called the Starcatchers was formed thousands of years ago to try to catch the star stuff when it comes down and get it away from the bad guys before they can use it for bad things. This little girl is a Starcatcher. Peter doesn't know that at the beginning, but he meets her and they become allies in the series of books. She's a Starcatcher. What's her name? Anybody know? Yeah.
Molly.
Molly! That's correct. That's her name. And Molly's a tough little girl. And she and Peter end up fighting lots of bad guys. This is one of the first bad guys they encounter. He's a pirate. Everybody knows in the Peter Pan original series by J.M. Barrie, Captain Hook was called Captain Hook because he had a hook for a hand. And the reason he did, according to J.M. Barrie, is he fought a duel with Peter Pan. Peter Pan cut off his hand and threw it to the crocodile, ate it, and the crocodile liked it and wants to eat the rest of Captain Hook, which is why he's always chasing him in the Peter Pan books. But our book starts before that. It's a prequel. They haven't met yet. They haven't fought their duel yet. The pirate has both hands here. So we had to come up with a name for him. You can't call him Captain Hand, right? So what did we decide to call him before? Yeah. Black Stash. He's the black mustache because he has a big black mustache. I've said that many times. One time we were talking to group kids. I said, and that's why we called him the black mustache. And the little boy raises his hand. He goes, what did they call him when he was little? So we had that little boy taser. So don't mess with us. We're not like regular children's book authors. Okay. Anyway, next. Okay, that book ended with Peter going to the island where he never grows old, and Molly going back to London, and everybody thinks everything's fine, but it's not fine. In the next book, we go to London and things get much darker. Because it turns out that Captain Hook is not the meanest guy out there. There's a much meaner guy who's come after them. It's this guy. He's basically a shadow. He's darkness, and he can steal your shadow. If he touches your shadow, he can suck it out of you, and then you become a zombie. You're in his power. What's the name of that really evil guy there? Yes, Umbra. Lord Umbra. Okay. In this scene, from the second book, Umbra has come after Molly just as Peter arrives just in time and gets Molly out the window. They escape. They have many adventures fleeing this guy and the other bad guys. They end up in a really interesting place in England, a real place that we went to visit when we were researching this book. Huge huge arrangement of giant stones. What is that place called? Yes. Stonehenge, that's correct. So we went out there, and our final scene is set there. Then we wrote a third book called Peter and the Secret of Rundoon, which takes place in a desert country run by an evil guy. This is his snake, which is the snake. Our snake was meaner than that. And here's Peter on a flying carpet, and here's which has been infused with star stuff, which is why it's flying. This is the camel is also flying. Not happy about it because he came into contact with star stuff. And if you learn nothing else tonight, kids, and you would learn if you read this book, never, ever stand under a flying camel. Bad things can happen. They don't really have great self-control, if you know what I'm saying. So anyway, what was it? This snake belongs to the king of this country, Rundoon, a really evil guy who uses the snake to control people. Anybody remember the name of the king? Yeah, King Zarboff the Third. There you go. Okay, so that leads us to the book we're talking about tonight. It's called Peter and the Sword of Mercy. And the idea behind this book was to move the story ahead. The last three books all took place kind of right in a row in the 19th century. This book takes place at the beginning of the 20th century. It moves ahead 23 years. It's all set around a sword that's part of the coronation ceremony in England called the Sword of Mercy, which is a real sword. And it has a lot of legends associated with it, which is what we use to make our plot. So 23 years after the last book, Molly has gone back to London, and because she's in a regular place, she grows older like everybody else. Peter doesn't. He stays on the island, stays young. Wendy grows older. She gets married. She has children. She has 3 kids, and her oldest is a girl, and that's the girl. Can anybody guess what that girl's name is? Yeah.
Wendy?
Wendy is the name of that girl. So we're now getting closer to the J.M. Barrie story, and in this scene, Peter and Wendy are back in London dealing with some pretty bad dudes. This is one we call Skeleton. This is one we call Von Schotten. Well, we're going to read you. We brought back some of their new evil characters, but we brought back some of the old evil characters for this book. So we're going to read you one scene from it. But to do that, we have to pirate up. Don't worry, kids. It's still us. I got on my pirate hat and my pirate reading glasses. This scene involves two of our favorite characters who are in every book. We'll never get rid of them. Captain Hook and his first mate, Smee. And in this scene, the mollusks who live on Neverland Island have decided to get rid of Captain Hook by fixing up a ship for him to sail away in. And he's very excited because he wants to go back out to be a pirate again. And they've raised the ship and they've re-rigged it. And now Captain Hook is seeing his ship for the first time. And I will play Smee and Ridley will play Captain Hook. The ship, formerly known as the Devlegan, and now as the Jolly Roger, was ready to sail. The sails themselves looked a bit odd. The mollusks had made them by tightly weaving fibers stripped from the stems of a hardy, thick jungle plant they called the salamander vine. The resulting sails were strong and supple, but Hook was not happy with the color. Not happy at all.
Pink, he said, upon first seeing them. Pink!
The sails were, in fact, an especially bright shade of pink. Yes, Captain, said Smee. I think they're lovely.
Hook slowly turned to face his first mate. This was usually a bad sign. Smee, Hook said calmly.
Yes, Captain.
We are pirates, are we not?
Yes, Captain.
So this is a pirate ship, is it not?
Yes, Captain.
And when we, as pirates, bear down upon our victims at sea, what emotion do we want them to feel?
Smee frowned. I don't know, Captain.
Fear, you idiot! Bellowed Hook, nearly knocking Smee over. We want them to be terrified of us. Do you understand?
Yes, Captain.
We want them saying, oh no, pirates, we're doomed.
Yes, Captain.
We do not want them saying,
oh, look at the lovely pink sail.
Yes, Captain. I mean, no, Captain. Hook went to Fighting Prawn to complain about the sails. Fighting Prawn informed Hook that the sails could not be changed.
But what pirate ship has pink sails? Demanded Hook.
Yours, apparently, said Fighting Prawn. All right, well, that's our... So, you want to real quick show them about the illustrations?
I can do real fast.
We always feel we don't give enough credit to the guy who illustrates our books because we think the covers are so amazing and the illustrations in them are. So we want to tell you a little bit about Greg Call, who's our illustrator. He's not here. He lives on a goat farm in Montana.
True story.
Seriously, but he is the most amazing illustrator.
But it's so cool as a writer to see your words. You know, when you're a writer, you have a vision of what's going on, and you try to use words to express that vision so other people can have the same vision. And then Disney hires an illustrator who has a vision of your words, and it's equal to or better than the original vision you had. We wrote a book called Science Fair together, and in it there's a levitating frog, and this was the first example that Greg sent us of our cover, which was pretty cool, wild sort of electrified flying frog. And then Dave said, you know, it's really more about kids than frogs, and so this is the way the cover turned out. The kid behind the frog. In Peter and the Shadow Thieves, there's this really active scene where Molly is challenged by Umbra, the dark, shadowy guy. And she ends up being rescued by Peter. And this is how Greg saw the scene, which was very cool. Outside of her house, Peter flying her off, and this hand sort of reaching out. But we wanted to show on the cover, as you've seen, what Umbra really looked like. So he did the same scene, but from inside the house instead of outside the house. And we got this for the cover.
We spent about a month
Yeah.
arguing about what the hands of a shadow
Just
being
on his hand.
Like we know what the hands of a shadow being should look like.
He redrew the hand something like 6 different times. For